So I think with the Vast Rocks, one massive research part for me was before actually getting into the studio with the dancers, travelling around on my own and trying to look at landscapes which have grown up with an incredibly new light. So, for example, looking at new places almost with the intention of making choreography out of it. So, in the rehearsal process, we did that again, and I've taken the dancers out to Dartmoor and to the coastline along the south coast, and to really experience the areas that I've grown up in, and essentially what I'm creating the piece about. So they've had first-hand experience of that. I think what's really fascinating about them seeing the areas for themselves is them experiencing it in their own unique way and dancing about that as well as my experiences, and trying to find a bit of dialogue and a place in the middle of them to actually bring into the performance aspect of the piece.
The biggest thing that stood out for me was coming down around here to Devon. Just that a huge contrast in environment from London and how that affected me. And I know that Vast Rocks is a very personal piece to Richard, but for me coming down to Devon, I've been able to kind of experience what he has, but in a slightly different way. And coming back to nature, and actually it's so refreshing to be away from the confines of London and the hustle and bustle, and it's been nice to then be able to take that experience and see it in Vast Rocks.
Visualising the taste of the air.
Being down in Devon has really influenced me in a different way to if we were creating this piece in London. We've sort of had to get used to the environment of living down here. It's a completely different pace of life. Yes, I think that's really affected me and affected how I've sort of been with the creation process of Vast Rocks.
I always find it so interesting how something comes together from nowhere, especially the Vast Rocks, as it is a piece that has been entirely generated from this 2 weeks that we've had here. We've done a lot of different creative and experimental things to generate movement and ideas and stimulus. It's very much more a piece where it gives you the time and the space to both enjoy the movement and the culture of Devon, but also to reminisce and think about what has shaped your path, whereas it's clear to see what has shaped Richard Chappell's path, but it's interesting to give a thought as to where your path has taken you.
The use of the bales of straw on stage is, for the dancers, it's physical material to play with and use to transform space for themselves. And it's a nice way to try and interact with the audience's senses. For example, you can smell it, you can see it. It makes, what I'm hoping is that it's the initial stimulus for people to see an environment. It's also a nice little kind of nod to my experiences commuting back and forth from London. I think there was definitely something about driving on the motorway and then experiencing kind of welcome to Devon signs and then seeing these sloping hills and massive bales, and it was almost a signpost for me to relax and know that I was in a much more safe and calm place. Something that's really interesting is knowing that the dancers will have a very different experience to the creative process and performance process than I will. The piece is incredibly intimate and is very much about my own personal upbringing. And I've shared and been very honest with the dancers a lot of very personal aspects of my life, but at the same time, it's going to be a very different experience for them. And the main objective I want to explore with them is to get the performance to a place where for them, they honestly believe that they have created their own environment or landscape on the stage space. And that's not something that maybe will translate fully to the audience, but it's something which, for them, it's a mental state that I want to explore with them to increase the authenticity, I guess, of the performance. With the audience, I don't know how they're going to experience that. They may just see a dance piece on stage, and if they do, then I hope they enjoy it. But if they see, I guess if they see their own environment or an element of landscape that maybe they can associate themselves with, then that's the thought process which I'd really like to kind of encourage or would like them to experience. But ultimately, you know, they get what they get from it, and that's nice for me to see people experiencing things very differently.